Hey, Happy New Year, folks. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I just pulled my New Year cracker. Let's see if I get a nice party hat. Let's see what it's not as good as last year, is it? Last year I had a gold crown like King Charles. Now I've just got a crappy paper hat. It won't last long, will it? There you go. Welcome back to the channel, folks. Thank you very much for joining me. You are always most welcome. I've just dropped something on the floor, which might be my toy. Have I got a toy? I'm sure there was something. Oh no, here we go. I got myself a yo-yo. Yo-yo, there we go. Yes, I'm wearing the gloves because I'm probably going to be handling some of my rather... Oh, that didn't work too well, did it? You know what's going to happen here. It hasn't... Anyway, we're not going to play with that on this camera. I'll play with that later. Welcome, folks. It's the end of the year roundup show. Modelling show. And here we are. It's basically just on the eve, almost on the eve of New Year, end of 2023, and I thought we'd have a bit of a wrap-up show for the year. I thought we'd have a little talk about my YouTube channel, some of the contributors, people that helped me through the year, some of the highlights, some of the lowlights. And I have to tell you, it's been quite a year on YouTube, so I think I'm going to start with that. I've also got some champagne, so I think I'll start with that, in fact. Now, I have to tell you, my wife isn't in at the moment and she doesn't know. I have actually got the rather nice Taittinger champagne glass. The only problem is, we have got Taittinger, but we haven't put it in the fridge and there's no more room. So I've gone for the Nye Timber, which was in the fridge. And it's the English champagne. Whoops, I'm not supposed to say that, that's actually complete. The French will tell you that's a contradiction in terms, it doesn't come from Champagne country. But they are champagne grapes. So it's the Cuvée Nye Timber, which is the same drink that I had on the coronation, when we did the coronation show, talking about a little bit about the dam busters as well, King Charles's coronation, back at the start of June. Rubbish over there. So, now, are we going to have an explosion here? It's going to affect my lovely Sea Harrier. Probably not. I'm going to try and go a little bit easy with this and not go silly. Got some tissue handy if I need it. You might have to just bear with me on this. But I have got a bit of a mixed record with these drinks. Oh, there we go. No explosions. Excellent. Time for a drink. Hope you'll have a drink with me. And we can all celebrate the end of 2023. And it has been quite an interesting year in more ways than one, modelling wise. I have to say it's not been a vintage year, if you pardon the analogy with the champagne. Not quite been a vintage year, I don't think, compared to others. I'm just going to, excuse me, it's just easier to do that than messing about with cloth. In fact, I think that would be a lot safer if I put that down there. Sorry, I've got the cover on it to keep it cold, of course. And my wife is saying, my wife's not about, so although she didn't put the right champagne in the fridge, this is very, very nice, I can tell you. So, cheers to everybody, a Happy New Year to you all. Hope you all have health and wealth in 2024. Let's start with a nice drink. Cheers to everybody. It's very like Taittinger, it's just not as sweet. Not quite as sweet. Wonderful. Anyway, right. I did that in that way because I didn't want to get any residue on my hands. I could possibly avoid it. I think we're okay. So, modelling then, modelling. So my year, I'm going to talk about my YouTube channel first, get that out of the way if you like. A few statistics for people. I did the same last year, of course, you'll recall. But I've had a very, very successful year. It's not been, you know, I'm not one of these YouTubers with millions of subscribers, obviously. But at the end of the day, it's a very niche hobby, and the people that follow me are probably even more niche. According to the numbers, my followers tend to be aged about 35. They start at 35 really, in terms of popularity when it zooms up, and it's it's the sort of 45 to 65 bracket that seem to like me the most. I wonder why that would be. But this year I've had a fantastic year. So we've had another 2,500 subscribers, which is actually the biggest jump in any year. More than double what I normally have accrued. I've got 440 subscribers just this month in December alone. Hours watched this year, 84,000 hours watched of my videos. And in terms of videos, I produced, I think I produced around about 100 and... That's the one thing I didn't actually write down, was the number of videos I produced this year. Something like 140 videos, 150 videos. It's quite a lot. It's quite a lot. And in December alone, I did 20. So, you know, it's... well, does that include this one? It might be 21 there. So there's been a lot, actually. I've had a couple of good months. But we've had 637,000 views in total. Views of my videos. Just talking of 2023 videos alone, and I had 111,000 views in December alone. So this has been my most successful month ever in terms of numbers of views, etc. Money, hey. Anyway, that's the bald facts. But the people that make that happen are you, of course, the viewers and subscribers. So thank you very, very much, genuinely, quite sincerely. And I've got a lot of you that have actually helped me along the way as well. Many of you participate, you don't just sit and watch. And I've got a few thank yous to say, which I would like to get out of the way at the beginning as well. Now, I always write these lists with trepidation because I have more than, I think there's 3 different email addresses. And it's very easy to miss someone. So if I've missed your name on here and you've sent me a kit, please don't be offended. It doesn't mean you weren't valued at all. It just means I couldn't find the data in time. But here are the main contributors this year. And we've had Jeff Flood in Ireland. I met Jeff at Telford, which was very nice to meet you, Jeff. And we had a few laughs there, didn't we? Pity I would like to have had more time, actually. Pity I wasn't there the whole weekend, but I couldn't make it on the Saturday. And he lent us the Wing at Wings SE5, the Hisso Hispano Sweden engine, and that was a beautiful kit. And I was so impressed I went out and bought one. So there you go. And he took a big risk sending something like that was quite valuable from Ireland, and they're fairly rare now. And there was a bit of an adventure that this kit went on. It went all over the blooming place, and it seemed to wander across Dublin and from where Jeff lives to Dublin, and then up to Dublin Airport, and then back to central office in Dublin, and then finally to the airport, and then finally to Britain. And then it really went on another journey, and in Britain it went sort of walkabout for about 11 days or something ridiculous. Anyway, eventually it got here, and it wasn't damaged, thank goodness. It all arrived in one piece, I'm glad to say. No thanks to the Irish or Royal Mail post offices. Yeah, not too impressed with those guys on either side of the Irish Sea, to be honest. But there we go. Thanks very much to Jeff. And I returned it safely to him at Telford, of course. Another good friend of the channel, Stuart Neal, he's sent us 3 or 4 kits now. Some very interesting ones, and some of which actually feature in my top 10, so that's worth mentioning. So that was definitely worthwhile because it's opened my eyes to at least one manufacturer. Also recently we've had Chris Usher. He sent us the KT Ambulance, I think it was, the new one from Tamiya. And we've had lots of offers of contributions from lots of people like Gary Hyder and Chris Stoney, Steffi Cohu, lots and lots of you keep offering me things. Charles, I've forgotten his surname, sorry, Charles Jeffries. Lots of people keep offering things, and it's impossible to say yes to everything. And there is a cost involved in returning them, of course. So there we go. But a couple of the most important contributors, we had one very kind contribution from Steve Keffer, from Steve's Vintage Models over in Vancouver. He's got his own channel, and I'm sure many of you have seen that, and I'm hoping he's in the chat right now. And he sent me the Matchbox Wellesley Bomber, Vickers Wellesley, which was fantastic of him. Yeah, I'm going to send you something in return at some point once the Christmas New Year posters all calm down. And then best of all this year, I have to say, is my pal David Mummery. And David came forward with quite a number of kits for us to see. I mean, I didn't actually count them. There must have been 30 odd at least. And they came just at the right time as well, when we had this very fallow. We've had a very fallow year. I'll talk about that more in a minute. But there wasn't a lot else on, apart from our good friends at ICM who kept supplying me with kits, of course. And David's timing, supplying these kits couldn't have been better, because we've had so many interesting kits. Some older ones, some from Tamiya and Hasegawa and people like that. And you know, there wasn't a bad kit amongst them. There wasn't a kit that I didn't feel really pleased to have actually opened and actually demonstrated it for you. So this has really been a massive help to the channel, especially at the sort of flattest period of the year when we had no new releases coming out, nothing good to say. My builds had all sort of dried up at that time. Nobody's fault but my own, of course. And David was a major contributor this year, probably the biggest contributor by far, really. So thank you very much, David. I really appreciate your help there, mate. And yeah, there we go. So that's the sort of main shout outs. I mentioned ICM. They probably also with David, they have been brilliant because they've, of course, you've probably seen my Let's Talk About ICM video. And I'm sorry, but somebody said the other day, I was watching another forum where people said, who's your kit manufacturer of the year? And everybody said the biggest vote was for Airfix, and ICM came third or fourth. And I just chuckled because I thought, what are they talking about? You know, the number of new kits ICM has produced, they've been coming forward with new releases. They're averaging about 6 per month. And I'm not trying to knock Airfix here at all, but same with Tamiya. You know, Tamiya haven't had much going on really. ICM have been in a different league, I'm sorry. As a manufacturer, especially given the horrible situation and the difficulties that they're under, there is no competition. ICM are head and shoulders the #1 kit manufacturer of the year, so I salute you and thank you for what you've done. And I know that a lot of the staff at ICM have actually had to be, you know, conscripted into the forces and stuff, and there's a lot of ladies now that are running a lot of the company, and they seem to be doing a fine job of it, you know. Really love getting their monthly package with the latest goodies in it, so I can share them with you. And on that subject, I'm going to cut straight across to ICM because I have here some photographs for you of the said goodies that they will be having. Just to give you an example of what I'm talking about, this just sums it up for me. So I'm going to show you this. So I can get this zoomed in for you. This is ICM. This is just what they're going to do in January. And this, I think, kind of sums it up. I can get this. You have to excuse it. It won't be quite central in the frame. So they're going to produce some more great new items. This is the... Whoops. This is the World War I US ammunition truck. That's coming through in January. There's also going to be the Sea Gloster Gladiator Mark II with the Royal Navy pilot. So they're combining the pilots with the Sea Gladiator. At least they're very good at doing these combinations. That's coming through in January as well. Something really quite exciting, the Ju-88, the tank buster version with a big cannon underneath. Heavy artillery attack plane with 75mm gun, which is basically off the Panther, I think. Was it the Mark III Panzer? Yeah, Mark III Panzer, I think. Absolutely fantastic. And look at the artwork on that. I mean, that is quite an exciting looking release. And then we've got another very impressive. What was I just saying about the ladies and what a fine job they were doing? Well, look at this. Now they've got to have some subjects of their choosing. Look, they've got some lady servicemen, female servicemen of the armed forces of Ukraine. Look at that. I'll zoom in a bit more for this one because it's quite interesting. And they're operating drones and doing all kinds of things. See, they've got their drone operators, they're rescuing people, rescuing animals, etc., etc. That looks amazing, I've got to say. Really looking forward to that one. Then we've got some World War II, G4 with MG34 and German staff personnel. So what we got here, G4 car, staff car, figures of Wehrmacht officers. This is like the sort of guys that you have out in the field, going to and from orders group meetings, at headquarters, all that kind of stuff. That looks really nice, and that's 24th scale. So they're going to be really big. Yeah, this is going to be quite a big set. That's something to look forward to. And then we've got the British Naval Aviation paint set. We've got the US Vehicles paint set. And wait for it, last but not least, their new catalogue for 2024, which is coming very, very soon. Well, I say that, late January. Do you spot something in that picture though? I do. A Black Hawk helicopter. You heard it here first, folks. So it looks like they're going to be doing a Black Hawk helicopter for us next year. And that looks really, really cool. Sorry, I can't stand this out. It's standing mad. Let's get rid of that. So there we go. So ICM. So this is my point. You know, I'm not bashing Airfix or Tamiya or anybody else. That is a typical month of releases from ICM. Absolutely stellar. And they are very reliable with these releases. The only one they've had a delay on, of course, has been the Marauder B26. That I think I doubt we'll see that until early March. Okay, again, you heard it here first. Certainly I don't think we'll be through in January. Very end of February, early March at the earliest, I think. Maybe later, I don't know. But we're all looking forward to that one very much. So that's something nice to look forward to. So I thought I'd share those with you. I can just go back. Go back and we will talk about other things very, very soon. So there you have it. So that's ICM. Just gives you a flavour of why I am so enthusiastic about them. Nobody at all in the industry has been coming out at the pace they've been bringing new releases out. Lots and lots of new tools. Not everything is brand new tool, like the Gladiator and the Navy Seamen flyers. Okay, that's not brand new, all of it, but a lot of these tools have either got new parts in them or completely new tool. Quite a lot of them. Nobody's been coming out at that pace. Now me, what did I do in 2023? Well, obviously we're talking about the channel on YouTube. Just have a quick recap there. So I had a couple of quite exciting things going on earlier in the year. We had the Lost Ark of Wingnut Wings kits, the final container that was burst into, so we could all get our hands on some of the very last and some of the nicest of their kits, including Gothas and all sorts of amazing things. You'll have all seen those. I actually got given a Wingnut Wings kit for Christmas. I got the Bristol F2B Fighter, so I'll be reviewing that very soon in the new year, so watch this space, which I was very pleased with. And the person who gave it me was really nervous that I might have already got it, but I haven't got it already, so not a problem at all. Very pleased with that indeed. So we'll have a look at that, another one I haven't seen. Then in March, I think it was, we had the Holy Grail, and this is my most successful video. I'm quite puzzled by this in one respect. It's my most successful ever model video. Not the most successful video, that was the F-15 jets taking off at Lakenheath. But this has got 31,000 views, and it's the Holy Grail. The Andy's Hobby Headquarters Tiger 1 16 scale kit. Huge, massive Tiger, yeah? Absolutely amazing kit. Really, really huge thing, and maybe talk about that a bit more later on. So that was a big success. I was surprised how successful it was, not because it was an amazing kit, but because I was getting over this very nasty cough infection. It wasn't COVID, it was something else I picked up. But I had to, because I was kind of the first person to get my hands on it really in the UK, I believe. And I had to do this video, and I actually held off for 3 days because I had this terrible chest infection. And in the end, I went ahead. I still wasn't 100%, although I was a lot better. And I got about 35 minutes in. Some of you will remember I started, I could not stop coughing. It was horrendous. And I thought, this is a disaster, you know. But people, you know, like I said, you can just turn the sound down if it's offensive. And just look at the images, because that thing was just incredible. Anyway, we'll talk about that maybe later on. So there was that. Then we had the Dam Busters in May. Dam Busters, the 80th celebration of the attack on the Ruhr dams, which I found very interesting. Of course, we did a review of the Tamiya Lancaster, the L1, L2. And then we had the King's, around the, just after that we had the King's coronation, King Charles. And that was quite fun, bit of a party show, you know, a bit like today really, he says. Time for another slurp of champagne, just excuse me a second. Lovely. Oh. And then the summertime, triggered partly by Airfix, actually by their generosity, by Dale Luckhurst, who's their head of brand. He sent me some goodies and said, look, I think you've been a great, how did he put it? You've been a great ambassador for the hobby or something like that. And made a big contribution. They wanted to send me these things. So he sent me a nice glass and had a mug and all sorts of things. And I thought, oh, well, you know, I should do a talk about Airfix. And because it was very quiet, as I mentioned, this is just before David came up to help me out. And I started doing these talks, and you know, we got into quite deep waters, didn't we? Oh, so I did Airfix, and overall, it was quite a long talk. Overall, I was very happy with Airfix. Now, I need to say this. I'm afraid that now we're at the end of the year. I'm not quite as happy with them as I was for two reasons, actually. They have brought out the Sea King, which we didn't know anything about at the time. that was quite good. That's a nice kit. I haven't reviewed it because it's not a subject that interests me personally, but I've handled it, I've seen it in detail. Yeah, quite impressed with that. And then, of course, we were expecting the Gannet to come, and also the Buccaneer. Now, there is a problem as I speak to you. We're coming up now, almost, where are we, 30th, is it? 30th now of December. They've had a bit of a problem at Airfix, a very unusual problem. I'm not sure what's gone on. I've tried to get to the bottom of it. I've rung them twice, had a couple of conversations. I've also written to Dale, but he's on holiday in fairness. But, and this is not just me, I know from several of you have contacted me about this. What they basically did was they charged everybody. So they announced that the Buccaneer was now in on the Wednesday, the 20th. I think they announced it on the 19th, of December. You know, we can get it out straight away if you pay us, sort of thing. This is the Airfix Direct online ordering system. I paid instantly without hesitation because I've been looking forward to this kit and I wanted to have it in my top 10 kits of the year. I actually rang up to follow up and say, oh, there's been a slight glitch at my bank. Did you get paid? And they said, oh yes, we've got your money, it's fine. We're going out in the next 24 hours. So it should have gone out no later than the 21st, and they have it on their website that they accept orders until the 21st. So they basically had 2 days and say 36 hours with my money and the money of some of you, because I know several of you have contacted me about this. They've taken all our money and they've never dispatched. Now, it hasn't gone missing, or it hasn't gone into a distribution centre, it hasn't gone into DPD, who they normally use. They use an agent called GFM, who then have it collected from DPD, so GFM, I guess, is kind of the warehouse. Who knows what they've done, but they took everybody's money, three full working days before Christmas. They took all the money, and they haven't dispatched anything. Now, they've admitted to me on the telephone that they haven't done. They don't know why, because the only people that are working now, as I speak to you at this moment, is the customer service team, and they can't get hold of dispatch or the warehouse or anything like that. But it's a bit of a poor show, and I'm a little bit annoyed about this. The reason I'm a bit cross is twofold. One, you don't take people's money and then don't dispatch when you've told them that you'll take orders for another 2 days beyond. Two, they haven't communicated the problem. And three, why did they leave it so late anyway? Because nobody really believes that these Buccaneers are on a shipment on their own. Yeah, I think we all know what the situation is. I'm not gonna go on about it, but that was going to be in my top 10 kits of the year. I was very confident to get into the top 10. And I'm very sorry to tell you that there are. I'm shocked to say this. Shocked. There are no Airfix kits in my top 10 review of the year this year. None at all. They came close. They actually came 11th with that new ME410. I don't like the Gannet. It's not a subject that interests me personally. Now, when I do my top 10, I hope people are listening to this because I've had one or two people make silly comments around these sort of things. I am giving you my personal opinion based on facts, based on what I've seen, what I've reviewed, okay? Now, I haven't reviewed the Gannet, but I've seen it. I handled it at Telford. It's got some very clever design features in it, designed by Paramjit, one of the best designers they've got. It's a really nice kit. I'm not going to knock it in any way apart from its pilots, which were a mistake, let's be honest. Anyway, we won't dwell on that. They're bad, okay? But the actual kit, which I'm sure the pilots weren't designed by Paramjit, yeah? So we're not going to blame him for that. I think they were just upscaled from a previous iteration. But he's a brilliant designer, and he's done the Buccaneer, and I was so looking forward to presenting this to you before New Year, and including it. And now they've fouled up at the end, and they don't even know what's gone wrong. They've admitted they've fouled up, so it's a bit embarrassing. It's another foul up. Seem to be having a lot of little problems there, silly things. They keep making lots of silly mistakes, and didn't really see this before. But there we go. We had a lot of kits arrive late, but I think this was actually held back deliberately. I'll take a lot of convincing otherwise. But anyway, I'm hoping that Dale, if you see this, whether you don't, frankly, I've emailed Dale directly and I've asked him to explain exactly what's gone on here, because it's hurt them and it's hurt their image in my view a little bit. Why they couldn't have got those out is beyond me. They had 3 days to get them out. They told everybody they'd got the stock in. What was the problem? They have a next day service on DPD, so it should have been here no later than the Friday. So what would that be? The 21st? 22nd. Friday the 22nd should have been here. Didn't arrive, so a little bit narked about it. And that is the reason, along with the fact I wasn't very interested in the Gannet. I think the Gannet was the wrong choice of subject. I think to have the Gannet and the Sea King in the same year when they haven't got anything bigger or better coming along, that was an odd choice, I think. So, yeah, I did allude to this very briefly in my Airfix talk, but I think now we're at the end of the year and we know how it panned out. It didn't pan out so well. The Gannet arrived super late. Lots of retailers that have personally complained to me face to face saying that they weren't happy with the way that the supplies came through. They were in dribs and drabs, and some people got preferential treatment. It's not been handled well. It's not been handled well. But there we go. I'm not here to critique any one company and how they go about it, but it hasn't been a smooth transition. And some of these things are internal. Some of these things are about bad communication. Don't go charging customers if you haven't got the goods there. That's a no-no. Absolutely unforgivable. I'm sorry. So yeah, a little bit cross with Airfix, if I'm quite honest with you. So maybe they need to send me some more mugs, or they'll have me on the naughty step. I don't care really, but let's hope that we can put all this behind us in 2024 and have a nice release schedule announcement. Actually stick to it. Actually not have them coming out without warning and then having ones that they have given notification of coming out 2-3 months late. All been a bit of a mess, to be honest. And I'm sorry, but somebody saying they thought that Airfix was the kit manufacturer of the year, I think it's utterly deluded. And you really believe that, you haven't seen enough of the competition really this year. That doesn't mean they can't be absolutely fantastic next year. So please, Airfix, if you're listening, please take on board what I've said and have a think about the way you've gone about some of these things, because the rumblings that, never mind what I think and my experience either, I'm hearing so many rumblings on other people's modelling channels on YouTube, forums. There's a lot of mixed feeling that that they haven't performed as well as they previously have, and there has been confusion, bad communication and unreliability creeping in all round. So I'm afraid I was very disappointed by Airfix in the end this year. If I was to have done that, let's talk about Airfix today, well, you get the flavour of where it would have gone really, because I think that they've spent far too much time doing YouTube shorts and not enough time focusing on getting stuff out, getting stuff in, making sure they dispatch it, and not charging people for things that they don't have in or are not able to actually send out the door. It's very poor, and other people managed it. We had the Zukimura, the FW190, that came in right at the last minute. I got brilliant service on that, and it arrived exactly when it was promised. Again, the Tamiya, the F35 arrived quite late, but again it was turned around instantly. Brilliant service. Not coming from Airfix, yeah. So come on, guys, let's try a little bit harder next year. Is all I'm saying. So there we go. So you now know, those of you that say, well, that doesn't mean that Airfix Gannet isn't the best kit of the year. No, I'm sorry, it's a fine kit. It's a fine kit. I'm not going to criticise it, but if you really think that beats any of the top 3 that I've chosen, as you'll see later, you're kidding yourself. You need to study them more and have a good look at them. There's no way. There's just no way. I think what Airfix should actually have done is split the Gannet and the Sea King over 2 different years and not have a similar sort of theme. Again, I can almost hear some of you now getting on your keyboards and getting cross with me, but many more of you, I was actually stunned about the Gannet. I thought it was just me being sort of grumpy old crab, RAF, man, and people sort of were going to really take me to task, and quite the contrary. The majority of commenters people have said, I've just got no interest in the Gannet, no interest in it. We're screaming out for a new Jaguar, Sepacat Jaguar, and we got a Gannet. Don't really understand it. You can do those things. There's nothing wrong with the Gannet. If it was in a year when there was lots of other big releases going on, if they'd had a 24 scale Hurricane coming out, you wouldn't hear me complaining like this. But it's because that was kind of the headline act. It's not really good enough, in my opinion. Anyway, I've said my piece and I'm not going to dwell on it. I've said my piece. I think that had Airfix come back to me and rectified the problems I've just talked about, and they haven't, they've had 2 weeks nearly to do that, a bit disappointed. Anyway, there we go, let's move on. Let's hope that next year things can be better, because I only wish them the best. I met them all at Scale Model World at Telford. They couldn't have been nicer with us, and they're very kindly let me have a review sample as well for the ME410, which I really liked, and it nearly got in the top 10. It nearly did actually, but there are the ones ahead of it are all superior kits. I'm sorry, so I hope you'll agree with that. I think most of you will, but we shall see. We shall see. And you've got to remember, if I'm picking a top 10, my top 10 will never be the same as anybody else's top 10. If there's anybody that says, yes, I agree with you, and in that order, the odds of that are almost nil, because it's a personal thing and it's very subjective, you know. But I think that people have got blind loyalty sometimes, and I think Airfix get a lot of that. Tamiya get it as well sometimes. I've been accused of it, but I don't think that's fair. Because I was very critical about Tamiya in my recent Let's Talk About Tamiya. I'm coming back to that subject now, really, aren't I? We went through the others, didn't we? So I'll go back to that, really. We went through the others, and we went to Eduard and Revell. I'm sorry, I absolutely panned them. You heard the phone call that I got from Mr. Tamiya. He was somebody to say it was a demolition job on Revell. Well, I didn't intend it. It didn't start out like that. It was when I actually started listing their kits, good and bad, and I thought, oh, this is... I almost wished I hadn't started down that road, really. One guy said that I was... we get some silly comments. Many people start watching this. No doubt they criticise me for the gloves. Well, I'm going to be handling the kit in a minute, so I don't care. I got criticised last week saying I was a muppet because I was wearing gloves and I wasn't building a model. Yeah, I was handling my most precious, ultra-high finish model. What are these people on? A lot of people watch YouTube videos and they do not watch them through. They take things completely out of context instead of listening to the whole thing and the summing up at the end. Anybody can do that with a newspaper article or a TV programme or an interview with a politician. You can take things out of context and blow it into something it isn't. As has been done with Airfix, as has been done with Revell. Somebody said I was anti-German. Listen, we've got 2 German cars. I don't think so. It's just crazy, you know, and I love the 2 cars we've got, absolutely adore them, so that's complete nonsense. I'm not anti-German at all. I learned to speak German when I was in night school, actually. Been to Germany, all over Germany, love the food, love the drink, love the people, absolutely great. No problem with Germany whatsoever. Just got a bit of a problem with Revell, and if they got taken over by another company that would sort them out, I could easily be won over, like many of us, I'm sure, because they're good value, but just not good enough. Too much aggro with them, you know. Not every kit. We can't generalise. Not every kit. Somebody said to me only today that they thought the Revell cars are very good generally. And it's probably their strongest area-ish. Some are better than others. It just depends on the moulding. But the general quality from them is a bit low. It's not as good as Airfix, you know. It's certainly not as good as ICM. They're head and shoulders above Revell now. You know, it's just the way it is. Anyway, then we went on, we talked about Eduard, and we had another bit of a controversial video, upset some fanboys. I don't use that language, I'm sorry, I don't actually use that language. That's not my word, that's the word that some of the Airfix and Tamiya teams use. But people didn't like the fact I was very strong in my criticism about the decals, and my opinion hasn't changed. I was accused of all sorts of things again, and I was accused of not trying it, which was actually true. So I thought, that's actually a fair comment from 2 or 3 people. I thought, I am going to try it, and I'm going to try and make it work. And I got so close, but so many of the attempts were such a disaster that you couldn't, me personally, wouldn't want to risk all the aggravation of doing things to a finished model in its final stages of completion, taking risks with chemicals like was being suggested to get this top film off, the Eduard top film. No, sorry, absolutely crazy, and they need to rethink that Revell, the decal situation. Sorry, at Eduard, they need to rethink it completely. I've had to go out and buy a complete new decals for my Mitsubishi Zero, and it shouldn't have to be so, you know. And it's ironic because this is the company that used to have the great decals and great aftermarket and great photo etch, the best of everything. And they've just spoiled that reputation. So it's easily fixed. It's easily fixed. It doesn't mean I'm going to hate them forever. If they have a rethink, get some Cartograph decals into the kits in the future, it's fine. But if they carry on insisting on those decals, I think a lot of us are going to walk away, really. Anyway, then we had got to Eduard. That was quite testing because I did a few videos where I was checking them out, you know. And then we had a little bit of a gap then, And then we got on to the sort of Far Eastern manufacturers, starting with the Chinese. And I actually included Academy in that, which is kind of unfair because they're South Korea. And they were one of the better ones, of course, in that group. And I moaned about the things you've heard me moan about before, about the bad instructions, people like Kinetic and Border, who just don't seem to be able to be bothered. Nothing is there. They've got, in the case of Border, they don't even tell you what the colour call-outs are for engines, cockpit interiors. Quite absurd and not acceptable for me. And many of you, it's amazing how the initial reaction is quite negative from people because I've trodden on some toes or broken a few eggshells. And then people go, as time goes on, I get more people, more and more, a majority seem to support me and some of these views because they've experienced it themselves. Even this week, over the Christmas week, I've had people saying, yep, I avoid Chinese kits. Now, we're not saying that. I didn't ever say that, avoid Chinese kits, but I named several people. Trumpeter I wasn't very impressed by. Kinetic, we talked about Kitty Hawk, but they've gone now. There's lots of these kits I did not mention. So I didn't mention Gecko. I didn't mention AMK, Dragon. Who's the other one? There was 4 that I didn't cover because I hadn't got any experience on them. So I was giving you my experience, a qualified criticism. I think it was perfectly fair. And the kits I named, some people come forward and say, Trumpeter make nice ships. Okay. I haven't got experience of that, so maybe I should have just been clear on that. I didn't have experience of their ships. But the ones I named, the kits I named, not good. Anyway, moving on, we then went up the scale. We talked about Great Wall Hobby and Hobby Boss, which of course, Hobby Boss is the same company as Trumpeter or same ownership. But they all seem to make them a little bit easy to understand, a little bit easier to construct, and the plastic seems better. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there, why there is that differentiation. And then we start to talk about other people, Great Wall Hobby, who have had a strange year because they've upset a lot of people actually this year with this new F-14B, the Tomcat, where they've come out and they've now got weapons on it which are not bombs, and the B is the bomber version, so that's very bizarre. Whereas still the missiles on it have now gone from being this sort of beautifully formed, slide moulded, total completed missile in an outer frame, like a matrix around the outside of it to protect it, and they've done that so beautifully on things like their flankers kits. And they've now gone back to just conventional, two clamshell halves, and all the fins have got to be stuck on, and then rocket motor at the back, and this got to be stuck on, and that's got to be stuck on, a little fin here, and a little... all very, very strange, to be quite honest, and no real explanation why they've changed that. And having no bombs in a bomber version, which is just absolutely weird. So it's caused a bit of, you might say, a bit of consternation, really. And I did allude to this and say, Great Wall Hobby, what with that and what with their instructions, which fall apart in all directions, seems a bit inconsistent. So I'm not sure what's going on there. And then I got to the end of that video, and I then introduced Meng. Now, Meng I had a very bad history with. I'm not going to repeat everything I said, but I had quite a bad history with one product in particular. And this year, for me, Meng is the most improved manufacturer. Most improved, not the best, but the most improved. And I say that because I've seen that fantastic Phantom F4G they did. They produced this Apache, the A64D. Both absolutely stellar kits, beautiful kits, and I was blown away by them. I was like, because I was going to be, Meng, no. So I really had my mind changed about Meng, and I'm very, very impressed with them. Now I built the TACOM kits, and here they are. I'm just zoom you in there, because you're probably waiting to see something. Don't just hear me ramble on. So here we are. We've got our Falklands little odyssey, you might say. We've got the Kinetic Sea Harrier, which I promised I was going to pick up. Very, very gently. So here we go, here's the Sea Harrier from Kinetic, which I finished on the 1st of April. No joke though, April Fool's Day. And yeah, I have to be honest, I'm very, very pleased with the way it came out in the end. But it wasn't a good experience, and this is one of the manufacturers that I was really, really very critical of indeed. Just feel that they not putting enough attention into those instructions, Even the basic things like where things go, doesn't explain how to fit your undercarriage. Antennas are directed to be fitted in all the wrong places. Some really, let's make a different grip on it, there we go. Some really rather silly things that were done in those instructions that are completely avoidable. But in the end, gently maneuvering this, in the end I was very, 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 very happy with it. And it now sits on this mat, this bit of HMS Invincible's deck, as you see here. Let's pop that down here. Then we've got the TACOM. So I just mentioned TACOM because TACOM, of course, are the other people that brought out an Apache at almost the same time. Oops, there's been a lot of that going on, isn't there? And I've just built this twin set, the Sea Dart from the Falklands War, as would have been on the HMS Invincible's foredeck. Sea Dart, that's the anti-aircraft missile system, medium to long range. And yeah, I was actually quite impressed with the kit. Some silly errors in the instructions and misleading things in the instructions. Also a little bit of silliness with their insistence on having a load of photo etch for absolutely no reason. There is no photo etch on this one in my hand at all, and there's tons of photo etch in the other one, which is the Sea Wolf, which I thought was very, very odd indeed. I'm sure some of you have seen this Sea Wolf here with its missile just lifting off from its salvo cartridge. This is the very short range missile to take on the Argentine Mirages, Daggers and Skyhawks when they are really close in, within a couple of miles of the actual ships, as they were in places like Falkland Sound and San Carlos Water, etc. Now, I mentioned I was going to make a comment about TACOM. Overall, yeah, not bad at all, but very hard plastic, and it really put me off some of the TACOM kits. So I didn't do the review of the TACOM, even though somebody offered me one to review it, the TACOM Apache, because I don't think I'd ever choose that, having experienced it the way I have. The cleanup is problematic on those. It's very, very hard plastic. You need to do a lot of extensive cleanup. Hard to scrape, it's hard to cut, it's hard to rub down as well with your sanding sticks, very hard. Very, very strange indeed. And it's kind of put me off TACOM a little bit. But it's very easily fixed. I've only got to change their plastic slightly, formulation. I'm sure it can't be that big a deal. Airfix, I was grumbling about Airfix, but Airfix have changed their plastic to a much nicer grade of plastic now. They've gone to this dark grey, and it's kind of a medium grade. It's not bullet hard or steel hard like TACOM, but it's not this soft blue tacky style that they used to have, you know. So I think that's a medium grade is probably the best, because I think things like when you're gluing together parts or there's going to be a seam, they settle better if it's kind of a medium grade. I think the soft stuff tends to liquefy too easily, and then you can have a sink mark, and the hard stuff tends to sort of settle after melting and then pull apart again. So you know, there's a happy medium to be struck, I think, for these manufacturers. Anyway, I'm going to just move my my little Falkland set aside for safety reasons. By the way, did you like my side? Beware of the dark side. You probably guessed I got that for Christmas. You're all probably looking at what's all that about. I've got Lord Vader here. Yes, brings out the dark side in me, that's for sure. Oh, by the way, I've got Sharky Ward there, who's just fallen over. Little Sharky Ward figure, I don't know if you saw him. We're going to pop him over here where it's safer, out of my way, like so. Just turn that around a little bit. There we go. So, make sure I don't catch that, because it is quite nearby. So there we go. So yeah, coming back to the sort of main point I was making. So we're going through these manufacturers. I wasn't very impressed with some of these Chinese manufacturers, but I was very impressed with Meng. I was really impressed by them. Then we got to the last three, which was ICM. And of course, you know, they're not perfect, and I've made comments about ICM's lack of masks, and I've made comments about they seem to be going for a lot of these bombers that are glasshouse canopy style bombers with greenhouses, you know, with lots of framing, and does need a mask. And when you've got 130 windows, it's a bit of an uphill struggle. So I fed back to them that, and I fed back to them about figures as well that people would like, and maybe even stands. they're taking it on board and they're having to think about it, but I think we have to give them a little bit of leeway at the moment for obvious reasons. But overall, I was most impressed with them. The reasons I stated at the beginning, really. And then we came to the sort of final two, which was just before Christmas. We had Let's Talk About Zukimura, and I gave the reasons I thought they were one of the best manufacturers. Because of these same things I've talked about, they have excellent instructions that are super clear, leave you in no doubts whatsoever how it should look, how things should fit together. They can be a bit fussy and a bit overcomplicated and a high part count, so it's not for everybody, you know. They're not beginners kits, But for the intermediate to advanced modeller, you know, every one of those sort of aircraft that they produced in the SWS series, they're kind of it's almost like a historic educational experience. You know, it's like a learning experience because you learn the history. They go to lots of lengths, fantastic lengths, to give you the history in the background. And I want to see more of that. We want to have a bit more effort. It's all right. It's all very well. These people like Border, you know, they're knocking out a Focke-Wulf 190. It's about £80–85. It's about £5 to £10 cheaper than the Zukimura, but it feels like it's £25 cheaper to me. It should be £25 cheaper if they're not going to bother with instructions that are proper. They're not going to bother with call-outs. I've said it all before, say it again. No question in my mind that is not good value from Border. And they could easily change it because the actual moulding that they're doing, their injection moulding, is beautiful. It's really nice. They produce lovely plastic. Just do the simple stuff. Stop being lazy and employ somebody to do your instructions and put them in English. Preferably in multiple languages, but there we go. And then finally we had Tamiya. And all those of you who thought I was a Tamiya fanboy, well, you got a bit of a shock at the beginning of that video because I was very critical of a couple of kits. That damned awful Sea Harrier. What is it about Sea Harriers that we can't have a decent one from anybody? A really good one, you know? Well, that was an absolute dog, you know, because it was a modified GR1 and they made a bit of a botch of it back in the early 80s. And then I was talking about that Spitfire, which was also nicely tooled, but a few silly things in the instructions and a few silly things in the design. Not quite as good as what we've come to expect from them recently. I had a bit of a step back in 2018. So I was very critical, but overall I then showed lots of examples of work I'd done on Tamiya, why I thought they were so great, why they are actually good value despite being quite expensive kits. And that was my sort of year, really, wasn't it? I know that these have been very popular, these vids, especially when it has the word rant written at the end of it. But I want to say to people, I'm not one of these YouTubers that does that for clickbait. I rant because I really have got a beef with those guys. And as you saw in the last three, there's no rant word included in the title or anywhere. Rant-free experiences, you know, with ICM and Zukimura and Tamiya. Yes, they're not perfect. Yes, I made some criticisms of all of them, but not a rant. I'm not going to... Every video I do will not be a rant. I'm not going to go down that road at all. Anyway, I have to say that, you know, I mentioned ICM, but it has been disappointing this year, I think. We just haven't had enough stuff. Airfix haven't done enough. Tamiya, even worse, actually, in terms of their output. The kit they came out with at the end of the year was worth waiting for, but still not enough. Not enough. They've done a few odd other things, like some of this 148th Armour and the ambulance in 48th, but it's not enough, is it, you know? We need Tamiya to get out some more 32nd scale kits. Show us their engineering prowess, which they have got in spades. We need to see all that, we really do. But there we go, so that was how we rounded it off. It was a two-part Tamiya. I think we had over an hour and a half of Tamiya. Yeah, it was a good hour and a half in total, and I think I summed them up pretty well, really. I still feel they're the best manufacturer, but they are losing their lead fast, and they need to think about that. They need to reinvest, and they need to take another step forward and give us some new, interesting kits, showing us their usual dynamic engineering. And I think that's the way I rounded it off, really. Forgive me, mentioned my wife's not around. Well, the cat's away, the mice will play, as they say. It's time for another slug of the night, but this is gorgeous, gotta say. It really is gorgeous. I can't praise it highly enough. Drop it, it's critical. There we go. Hope you're enjoying the drink yourselves. Hope you're enjoying the show. I am very critical I have to say, I am very critical, but of everybody, including myself. You know, one of you who knows who he is. I did a video the other week and mentioned me and said, I think this guy's a master builder, but he says not. I thought, my God, I don't think I've ever thought of that before. But it's all relative. You always see people that you put on a pedestal. I think the difficulty is what we should all do is maybe get in a room and compare our work without, you know, with the same eyes. You know what I mean? I zoom in so much on my videos. Somebody pointed this out to me and said, you're zooming in at 20 times, you know, don't do it because other people are not doing that. And theirs looks, it flatters theirs. Everybody zooms in at 20 with this camera, with this lens I've got. It's a brilliant camera, by the way. The only thing that lets this camera down, many of you will have seen this, is the slight hunting of the focus it does sometimes. I'm showing a review sample of a sprue, and it starts doing this hunting thing where it starts to struggle a little bit. Once it does focus, it's pin sharp and everybody says, wow, that's clear, you know. So one of my New Year's resolutions is to try to show it a little bit longer to give the camera a little bit more chance. The reason that I haven't done this already is the real issue I have with my setup is, say, it's a great lens, beautiful, one of the best. I look at other people's YouTube videos and I think it's not very clear. It says it's 4K and it looks like it's 720, you know, it's not that clear. But it's all about lens at the end of the day. Definition is just a pipe dream number, really. It doesn't mean anything with a poor lens. It will not give you the clarity. As I say, this one has a little bit, its autofocus is not the strong point, that's the weak spot in this one. So I'm going to try and dwell a bit longer, but my problem is that when I look at I'm looking now up at the screen, this is why you see me slightly looking off camera, I'm looking at the screen, but it's not very big. It's only about 2.5 inches by 1.5 inches, and it's over a metre away, so it's not as easy as you think. Anyway, without further ado, I think I should round this off by basically doing my top 10 kits of the year. Now, I said I'm going to qualify this right now. These are the kits I've actually reviewed, okay? So it can't be an exclusive list. Unless, I saw somebody the other day who was on a forum and he did the same thing. I don't think he was copying me, I think he's done it maybe before, but he didn't include things that I was amazed he didn't include because they are critical kits. You might think that's about me with the Gannet. You might well think that. You might very well think that. But you can't review every single kit unless you're getting them everything sent straight from the manufacturer free to everybody, which is not the case with the vast majority of what I do. So you have to bear that in mind. It is not an exhaustive list. However, anybody, I said this at the beginning, anybody that thinks that, I'm going to pick on Airfix here, but anybody that thinks that a recent release from Revell or an Airfix Gannet is better than the top 2 or 3 that I've nominated here, you need to get them out and get them in front of you if you really believe that, because I think you'll soon change your mind. That does not mean that Airfix can't be in the top 5, top 10, top 3. Well, last year they were second, dropped to third through no fault of their own. They were right on the podium. This year they're not even in the top 10, and that really disappoints me. As a Brit, I am, mortified really. But they've released too many subjects that are similar, and they've released them at the wrong times, and they haven't released enough. So that's my I'm not going to bang on about Airfix, but I'm a bit frustrated a little bit at the moment with them. And I want to, and the same with Tamiya, as I said. They need to release more, we need more. Yeah. Tamiya should be doing 2 or 3. I mean, you could argue that their F-35B, which is I won't bore you now, but it's a superb piece of engineering, on another level, frankly. However, it is a variant of a kit that came out last year, and that's kind of not good enough, They needed to do something new. But anyway, I'm not going to dwell on, I'm not going to criticise companies. But it was a poor year. It was a poor year. However, we did have some very exciting stuff coming out. So, let's have a look at what we got. Are you ready for this? For my top 10, this is my top 10. Nobody else's. It may not be the same as you would choose, but there are good justifications in my mind for every single one of them and their relative positions. Starting with an absolute mahoosive monster of a kit. There's a couple of real monsters in this list. A couple of them. And here's my first one. That's right. It is the ICM CH-54A, the Tahi helicopter Sikorsky Sky Crane with the M121 bomb. Mother of all bombs. And by the way, those of you that don't know or didn't see the review, number 10, that's my choice. But this bomb, the front of it is literally a British tall boy warhead from World War II. That is literally where they got them from. And they started producing them over in the States. Having been sent them by, it was Vickers, was it? It's a fascinating story. But this was an incredible model. I'm not going to go into a complete review of it now, obviously. But it was absolutely stellar. It's bloody enormous, this model. It's really huge. Well, the only downside to it, really. And, you know, as we've said before, produced by a company that has got so many problems in their country. Really, really impressive. We had an earlier variant of it come out at the end of last year, but this is really quite an exciting one. And he's really nice. They also brought out a brand new set of figures. Well, I haven't included them as a separate kit, but they've got ground personnel that came with it as well. Absolutely brilliant model, you know. The only issue with it is, have you got the room? But a beautiful kit. Very, very well produced. Perhaps not with ICM. You don't always get the ultimate in definition like you do with Zerkimura in terms of detail. But a beautiful thing, and so ambitious, you know, so nice. Exactly what I was saying about Airfix, you know. Ambitious. They were not so ambitious this year, really. You know, Sea King, very nice, but not on this level. Anyway, there we go. So that is number 10 in my top 10 for 2023. Can you guess what number 9 is? Can you guess? Here we go. Coming in at number 9, it's the Academy A10C, which came out at the start of the year. Now this is a nice kit. This was very, very well priced, and it came out at a price very similar to the Hobby Boss version, which we'd had before, which was also a decent kit. But this has got a lot more detail around the engines, just more finessed, came with weapons, really, really nice panel lining, very accurate looking, very, very nice. Now there were some complaints, people who have built it, one or two have said that there is an issue apparently with the depth of the engine. I'm not a rivet counter, I don't really know the details, but one or two people did grumble about some of the depths, but it does look beautiful when you handle it, it's fantastic. For me, the only criticism would be that they didn't have the gun couldn't open the hatches for the gun and have the gun on display, even on the aircraft. So I was a little bit disappointed with that, if I'm honest. But overall, coming in at under £40, you know, well under. A beautiful kit. So well formed, so clean on the moulding, and just looks very modern, beautiful. But watch this space. So next year we have got Great Wall Hobby are bringing one out, allegedly near £100. Maybe we'll get it for less than that then. Recently, Great Wall Hobby prices, thanks to their importer, have been doing a great job actually and getting more competitive pricing than some other markets around the world, so we're fingers crossed. I think if it's £100 it'd be too much for a 48 scale, that's too much money. But if it comes in around 60, 70, that might be, maybe that's okay, but we shall see, we shall see. So that was my pick at number 9. And by the way, as I mentioned, just go back to the Airfix comment, there would have been number 11, if I extended it down, there would have been number 11 with the ME410, which I thought was a nice kit. Not very ambitious, a little bit of an issue with the data and the instructions, but beautifully formed. I think Matt Whiting designed that one. Really, really crisp, and for a 72nd scale it looked more like a 48th. It was really nice, you know. So they would have been there. You know, I'm pretty confident this Buccaneer would have been number 6, 7, maybe 8, depending on what the final product is like. Fairly confident it was going to be there, and that's designed by Paramjit, and they just didn't get it out in time, and it's just, you know, anyway, I'm repeating myself. We won't bash Airfix anymore, I've already said my piece. Number 9, number 8. What do you think number 8 could possibly be? You ready for this? It's ICM again with their Sally Bomber. Now, this is where I was quite taken aback, because we'd already had the Sally come out in 72nd scale, and we had the In the Skies of China variant version came out as well. And then they suddenly dropped this on us in, I think it was October. They just dropped this late October, and the detailing on it was a bit better than we've come to expect. The crispness and the sharpness and the look of the panel lines and the depths, and it all looked finessed up. it was all getting a bit sort of Meng stroke Tsukimura Tamiya level. You know, it struck me, and I commented in the review about how impressed I was with just the finish, the way the parts were moulded, the crispness of the small fine parts. Just looked like an evolution, a big jump forward, you know. And you could see that in the 12 months of ICM kits, that this has been one of their biggest jumps, I think, was on this 48 scale version. It was an absolute beauty, really nice kit. Not my favourite subject, and again, it has this many windows. I think it's got 45, 50 odd windows, maybe it's more, because there's a lot on the top. No, I just realised this is the one with the 130. I just realised. 130 windows. But a beautiful, beautiful kit, and so nicely executed, and not a huge amount of money, around £50, you know, so a lot of kit for your money. I was very impressed. Quite shocked how good it was, actually, because I just thought it was going to be an upscale 72nd, but it didn't feel like that. It felt like a new approach, if you know what I mean. Anyway, there we go. How about something now? Something really big. You ready for this? Coming in at number 7, it's the frankly massive Tiger 1 early from Andy's Hobby Headquarters, made by Takom. Now, this was my most successful video review of all time, 31,000 views and counting, which for me is a lot. Now, this does potentially suffer from the problem of the hard plastic again, which I've moaned about, and I'm a bit nervous about that because I did want to build it. That was the plan, but it was so well executed. Not so much. I mean, the moulding is just beautiful. People say, "Oh, it's a bit toy-like. It's too big," and yes, I understand what they're saying, but this is where your finishing techniques come in. You can go bonkers with this on weathering. Just go to town on it. It'll look great, you know. But Andy himself, from Andy's Hobby Headquarters, you know, let's get started. he did a brilliant job though, because there were some errors in the instructions, and again, not communicative instructions, not well written. And he did a couple of videos, A, explaining the instructions and where there was issues, what to watch out for, which I thought was brilliant. And then B, he actually built it for you as well, and there's a video build of it. So this takes away the problem. So why others don't do that, I really don't know. By the way, just jumping back to ICM for a second, ICM do this thing that I really love and is worthy of mention, where they have these animated builds, like an animation of the thing going together, part by part. They're brilliant, aren't they? I wish all manufacturers should do that. ICM are actually ahead of the game there. Why can't Airfix do that? Why can't they? They've got the CAD. I'm sure they've got the ability and the people that could do that. It's really helpful when you're actually doing the build. But anyway, Andy filled in for the Takom's weaknesses, shall we say, and smoothed over the cracks, you could say. But the kit itself is beautiful, and it comes in it was the biggest model box I've ever had. It stood, literally, you'll remember, it stood above, almost I had to zoom right back on the zoom to get the box in, just to get it in on the table. It's absolutely enormous, and is, you know, the mother of all tigers, and I called it the Holy Grail of Model Kits 2023. That's my number 7. Let's have a look. What could possibly be number 6? What could be? It's the new Mini Art P47 Thunderbolt, the 25 RE. Now this is Mini Art's first aircraft. Now I did make a few comments about some issues with the quality on this. Nothing major at all. But in the sample I've got here, I seem to have got some slightly iffy clear parts, to be quite frank with you. Now, whether it's worth swapping them I don't know. I did look at others. I literally inspected another sample because I had 2. That didn't seem quite as bad. The problem with it was it seemed to be a bit, it's malformed, but there was a heck of a lot of distortion in the one that you don't have to take my word for it. You can go watch the review and see for yourself. They weren't the best clear parts. They were not, compared to other manufacturers, up to the standard of ICM, and they certainly weren't up to the standard of something like Meng or Tamiya or anything like that. But we've got to give them a bit of rope here, a bit of leeway. It's a very nice kit. There's a lot of lovely detail on it. There's too much detail. don't know. I don't know. I think that if you give it a good primer, and it'll be fine. You know. But it's a beautiful kit, and it's very sharp, very finessed. I was very impressed with it. I just wish this clear parts had been good, because it would have. I actually predicted, and this those of you that think he doesn't like mini art because he's buddies with ICM, completely untrue. In that, I actually predicted to one of you, I actually said, months ahead when it was announced, that that's going to be the kit of the year. I bet that wins kit of the year. Well, it hasn't, I'm afraid. It's only come in at number 6. It fell a bit short. I wasn't that impressed with the instructions in some places. They're a little bit misleading, a bit confusing in one or two areas. The clear parts weren't that brilliant. But overall, I thought it was a great, most welcome introduction into the aircraft genre from Mini Art. So I'm very pleased to see them have done this, really am. So that's number 6. Now we're getting to the top 5. We're coming right down to the business end now. Are you ready? What could be number 5? Well, we know it's not going to be an Airfix. Probably not going to be a Chinese kit. What could it be, do you think? Let's have a look. Zoom you in for this. I'm going to have a little slurp from my nice Taittinger glass first. Do you know, that's lovely. It's not too much. It's not too sweet. So, let's get to the top 5 then. And then we'll quickly move to the podium. Number 5. And this is completely unexpected to me, out of the blue for me, is the Meng Apache A64D longbow. This was actually loaned to me by our good friend Stuart. Not giving this a pat on the head because it was something that was loaned and it was a favour, nothing like that. I was amazed by this. Now, of course, this has come out at the same time as the Takom kit. And interestingly, which says it all, I think, Stuart saw the Takom kit and immediately cancelled his order and ordered this instead, which kind of tells its own story. And I tell you what, I think he made the right choice, because the Takom kit is very ultra detailed. It's very subtle, the differences, but there is a tiny bit more detail. But this is so detailed, to me it's superfluous, it's pointless. It's such a sharp kit, and they came up with lots of clever ideas within it, like central spine that runs down the back of the helicopter to avoid a seam, which you often don't see on choppers. You know, everything about the way that they assemble these avionics pods in the side. It was really made to be buildable, whereas the Takom one, I saw the instructions, they look really confusing and very ultra busy. Too complicated, not easy on the eye, enough to give you a headache, to be quite honest. Whereas Meng's instructions here were really good. This is why I was mentioning Meng as my most improved manufacturer this year. This is one of the reasons. This kit was so well instructioned, with lots of colours in use, a bit like Airfix actually, using colour very, very cleverly, not overcrowding every stage of the instructions build. Really nicely done, and for something that has got a lot of parts and a complicated build, relatively speaking, it looked doable for a lot of modelers. You know, even intermediate models have not too much trouble, I don't think, to build it. And I actually I didn't see this review until long after I'd actually done my own, but I know Phil Flory reviewed them both back to back, and he said, I believe his summary was something along the lines of, he thought pretty much that the Takom was a little bit more finely detailed, but he'd rather build this because it's probably easier to build and more straightforward. So if you're a real obsessive aficionado, rivet counter, you might go to Takom, but this is just, it gets the balance just right. You know, these are complicated machines, they've got a lot of tiny parts in them, and this was nailed by Meng. Meng really went up in my eyes, you know. So there you go. I don't hate Chinese manufacturers, just for the record. I just don't like bad ones. Cheers. Here's to your health. Here's to Meng. Number 4. Number 4 is the last one I'm going to show you on the screen. Then we're going to get the last 3 on the desk right here in front of us, just like we did last year. So the last one we're going to show on the screen, coming in at number 4, and again something I never saw coming at all, complete surprise to me, and very, very impressive to me when I did the review. Blown away by it. People that have built it say it's absolutely amazing. Meng again, incredibly, Meng at number 4 with the F4G Wild Weasel Phantom. Now this is full of clarity, cleverness, simplicity, but brilliant detail, problem avoidance, things like they've moulded the whole fuselage in one section, which I thought was brilliant, to avoid this phantom problem of having seams everywhere, you know. They've gone out of their way to make sure that this is modeler friendly, but not in a way that dumbs it down remotely. No. A superb kit, which really blew my mind. This was loaned to me as well, and again, it's nothing to do with the fact it was loaned. This has been an eye-opener. These two kits, this time it was David Mummery, who loaned me this, and it blew my socks off, this one. I was like, whoa, this is... Now, I'd done the Zukimura, and I think this is better than the Zukimura Phantoms. I did. It's just... they've gone another step in thinking about how we're going to build this with relative straightforward steps, without conflict between stages, you know, and some of the ways they went about fitting in some of the details, some of the the moulding sharpness was absolutely brilliant. It's a beautiful thing on the eye. This is a nice Phantom. This is probably the best Phantom of the lot. Now, ironically, I haven't seen the Tamiya, but I think this will literally sit between the Tamiya and the Zukimura, and therefore is the best, because the Tamiya will be geared to ease of simplicity of build. Zukimura will be all about detail, and this sits right in the middle and kind of takes a bit of both of those elements and puts them together in one package, right in the middle, a happy medium between those two goals, if you like. I think it's just a super kit. And I've had people popping up who've seen these reviews, even in the last week, a chap called Dave, and he built a beautiful example of it, I've got to say. And I'd missed it, and he'd done it back in July, I think it was. And it was on the Flory Forum, I think. And I actually went and looked at it, and I thought, whoa, it's beautiful. And I said, you've done a stellar job with it. And he said, yeah, it was a nice kit, this. Really nice kit. So people that have built it really speak very highly of it, which is the ultimate test. We know that from my own experiences. So there we go. So how about that then? What did you think? What did you think? You're thinking, never mind that, stop playing for time and get on with the other top 3. You all want to know what's on the podium. What is on the podium? Well, before we get to the podium, I deserve another drink. I'm going to have one. But bear with me, I'm going to be very careful now, because I don't want to get any of this on my fingers at all, whatsoever. Bear with me a little. I think I deserve a real champagne New Year. Well, again, Happy New Year to all of you. Cheers, everybody. Hope you're going to enjoy lots of happy modelling next year. I'm going to have just a 2-3 minute break here and talk about next year, actually. So I intend to build that beautiful Tamiya 32nd scale Mosquito. That's my plan next year. I'm also planning to probably build the Zukimura 190. And what was the other one? Oh, of course, I'm building the Zero. So that's 3 quite ambitious builds, which for me, I didn't sort of dwell on this, did I? But those 3 that I've just shown you, that's all I built this year. Oh. Yeah, not funny, actually, not very good. I could have done a lot more, but you've got to understand that those of you that just chuckle and say, well, I built 12, you know, or 20. You haven't got a YouTube channel, and you cannot imagine how much time it takes. Not only shooting these videos, that's actually the easy part, but the preparing for them, setting up for them, any editing. I don't do a lot of editing within the film itself, but I have to do a lot of post setup work on YouTube, which takes forever, and uploading it takes forever, and there's often issues, and YouTube has a bad evening. Sometimes they have this thing where it'll take a day or 2 and it won't upload in its full HD format. Oh, this drives me nuts, and there's been times I've had to pull a video because I just didn't want to let it go out in low definition. It wouldn't be permanent, it would load eventually to HD, but there's a lot of issues, and if you haven't got a YouTube channel, you have no idea what's involved. It is very, very time consuming, quite stressful at times, and the rewards are, I think the best word to use is modest, to be quite honest with you. That's a bit more light. I'm going to have some more light on me. Here we go. So there we go. So, but I've had a great year on YouTube. I mean, this has been my best year since I started in 2015. It's my 8th year. And yeah, December, this month that's just finishing now, has been the best month ever. January will not be like that. In fact, in January I intended to do almost nothing. Last year I did nothing at all. I took January off. Now it's slightly changed situation because I've got these ICM ones to do, so I'm obliged to do that. But there's not many of them. I think you'll see 1 or 2 a week probably. But we have still got the Airfix Buccaneer to come, and hopefully, when they deign to send it through finally. We've also I've got my Christmas present, the lovely Wingnut Wings to do, for you to look forward to. Well, we know that'll be a 10 out of 10, we know the outcome, but we can enjoy the ride, can't we? So cheers to you, Happy New Year to you. Right then, what could possibly be the top 3? I guess most of you probably know at least 2 of them, but you won't have guessed this one, so let's zoom you in. Nice and close, and here's the one you probably didn't see coming. That really, really impressed me when it arrived and blew my socks off completely. The Armour Hobby Hurricane 2C. What a beautiful, beautiful model this is. Now, when I say this particular model in my hand, I just want to sort of qualify it. They've issued 3 versions already. So we've got all 2Cs. We've got the tropical version with the trop filter, although all those parts of that are actually in this box. So you actually need some different markings and you're good to go. And then there's also the Jubilee version, which has got the markings of the aircraft. Funnily enough, that was the Matchbox 2C in 72nd scale. It's that actual aircraft, LKA. So any of those 3 qualify in this slot. It doesn't have to be that specific item variant specific. Excuse me. Any of these 2Cs that Armour have brought out, what a lovely model. I mean, I can get it out. I don't think the only single thing I hated about it was the box. I like the sliding out bit. I just don't like the Rebel Star. I wish they'd drop that. That's horrible. But here's an affordable kit. It came with resin. This variant came with resin parts as well, exhausts and the guns. I think. I don't know. Guns. Yeah. And the other version comes with a resin seat as well. But the finesse of the injection moulding is just amazing. Absolutely gorgeous. Maybe even a little bit overdone. I would say to people, don't be shy with your primer on this, because it's a little bit too finesse perhaps for its scale, and if you only have a very thin paint coat on it, I think it might look a little bit out of scale. Now, it's not a criticism, it's just a thing to be wary of. You can work around it. But that is a thing of beauty. It comes with TechMod decals, instructions that are as clear as crystal, and it's something that we needed in the market, and it just dropped in. It was like, you've got this and you've got ICM. Armour in Poland, of course, and I should have also mentioned that when I talked about the Thunderbolt from Mini Art, that they've actually moved out of Ukraine now. They've actually moved also to Poland, so they're now in the same country as Armour are. There's been a little bit of movement. I can't say I blame them, obviously. But this Armour, they're a company that's coming. That's one of the, I didn't include them as the most improved because they've not been around long enough really, whereas Meng have. But you could almost say they're not really a newcomer either, because they were there last year, weren't they? But they are making huge leaps forward. Huge. Them and ICM are just making massive steps forward. And I thought it was a beautiful model, and I'll probably make it at some point in the not too distant future. Although I must admit, I do like the Jubilee edition, which is the Dieppe Raid version, and that, of course, mainly because it reminds me of the Matchbox. So I might, I'll build this. I might do this as a night fighter, like it's depicted on the cover there. But it's a beautiful kit, and for what it costs, you will not go wrong. If you like a Hurricane, you've got to get one of these Armour Hobbies Hurricanes. I say the Jubilee one is probably my favourite now, but they're all gorgeous. They're just, and again, you get them out, and the plastic is beautiful, and it's like a feast for your eyes. Just stunning, really, to be honest. So well done, Armour. Well done. Dziękuję, as they say in Poland. Thank you for your excellent work. Absolutely brilliant. What could be number 2? Now, this is where we have the drum roll. Are you ready? Well, I'm sure most of you have got a fair. It's probably either one or another, 50-50, you know. Now, this was actually difficult. Now, this is actually difficult because the two favourites for me this year, quite hard to choose between them, and in the end, I had to find a way that was fair to choose which won and which didn't win overall. But the one that comes second would probably have won had it come out in this format before its other variant, which came out last year. So you're probably guessing already. It is Tamiya's stunning F-35B Lightning. Now the thing is, in terms of its actual merits within the box, this is probably the most beautifully engineered kit to be manufactured this year. However, we have to be fair, and I was talking about this, wasn't I, before it arrived, and I was saying, oh, I think it might win again. I don't really want it to win because it won last year. And I thought, well, actually, if you're really fair about it, there is an argument, therefore, to say, although it's absolutely amazing, and I know a lot of you don't like this aircraft. I'm not its biggest fan either. But the fact remains, this is one of the most beautifully engineered kit of all time. I'm going to stick my neck out and say that, no question. When I was doing the review, when I finished the review, I noticed there was, when looking at the images, I noticed ejector pin marks. I thought, oh my god, I haven't even noticed the ejector pin marks. Oh my god! I felt really bad about it. And I thought, how could they have done it? They haven't done it again. Why have they done? And I went back and I quickly realised that although these parts look like they're external, this is on the jet pipe at the back. They were in fact the internals that the external pieces clamshell onto the outside of. So, of course, they are very detailed parts, a lot of piping and trunking and wiring. None of these parts of these ejector pin marks are visible. They're all covered over. Tamiya have clearly evolved. They learned. And I didn't pick up on this when I actually did the review. It was only about an hour or two afterwards. And I was so pleased when I went back. And in my mind it went up a little bit more. But the fact remains that quite a lot of this kit was actually developed last year and was released last year in the A version. And that is the reason that's kind of the main reason it doesn't really win, because it wouldn't be fair to have the same again when there's only the lift fan components and a few other parts, you know, the nozzle at the back, that have changed. You know, a lot of the kit is the same as last year. That is the only reason it doesn't win, because the actual engineering inside this box is absolutely stellar. You know, people say, oh yeah, well, people dismiss it because they don't like the aircraft. And I understand that. If you're not, it's like me with the Gannet. Okay? It's like me with the Gannet. If you dismiss it because you don't like the aircraft, that is fair, but I don't dismiss the Gannet as a kit. I didn't review it, so it's not in the top 10. Where would the Gannet have come? We should actually discuss this. I think it would have come 3rd or 4th, actually. It might have got into that sort of Hanson position on the podium again. It might have picked the Armour Hobby. I think it probably would have. Probably would have just. So you've got to see things in context, but there's no way that Gannet, as brilliant as it is, and Paramjit did a beautiful job of it, but there's no way it could beat this. If you've actually seen this and handled it and absorbed the way that it's been thought through, and the parts and the finishing of them, and the quality is just stellar. If you are looking for a build that is going to be challenging but not a battle, not unpleasant, but will not be easy, this is the kit for you. Because this is actually a lot more complicated than people think it is, especially this version. There's quite a lot involved. There's a lot of fine painting and detailing. If that's your thing, this is the one you want. If you buy this and start building it, you will get into it. And like I said in the review, it will make you become a fan of the F-35, I think, because it's that good. It's that good. So there we are. There we are. So I'm going to try and get some semblance of order over here. I have to say that when this was almost too late, wasn't it? Unlike Airfix, which was too late. But they made it in the end. They made it all the way from Japan. And it was a joy to go through the parts and to see the way they got the accuracy so bob on, you know, and so crisp. The plastic feels so nice in your hands. it's almost like model porn when you're handling it. So I'm afraid, please do not think that this has lost. It's kind of, in my mind, it's almost the equal winner. I was going to announce equal winners, but I thought you can't do that. You've got to make a decision. And because some of it is not brand new this year, the other kit gets the nod. And the other kit, the ultimate winner, kit of the year 2023, is of course the new Zukimura FW190. A kit that was just like all my birthdays and Christmases felt like they'd come at once, you know. So here we have the new champion, and I think it's very, very well deserved. I should add to you as well, those of you that saw the review and enjoyed it, etc., that one thing that has changed since that review, not changed, but additional, Zukimura have announced some extra, so they've now got weight on wheels in resin, which you can get. And they've also announced some absolutely stunning looking gun barrels which are all in brass. And now I have to say, I'm a little bit torn because the gun barrels look really nice in this. They're slide moulded and they do look very beautiful. But the brass one, it's one of those things that once you see it, you can't unsee it, and you think, oh my God, I think I've got to have them. I've got to, really. Because it's just going to make it, those cannon and machine gun barrels are just going to make it look that bit extra special. This has got the best instructions, I think. Best is a big word. I just like the way that they research it, and they go into such depth, you know. And the fact that you're building the plane from the ground up, inside out. Now, of course, that's not for everybody. And if you want a simple build of a 190, there's the Revell version, which you can always get. So, you know, you don't have to pay, this is about £95 or thereabouts, £95. And this is the special edition, which has got Siegfried Schnell resin figure with it. But you don't have to have that. I think it'll be about £90 without the figure, which will be coming through in the new year. And if you don't want to have all the wing ribs and all the formers all the way down the fuselage, yeah, I can appreciate for some people they just want a really good looking 190, a curbside model, then it won't be for you. But I just think that in a year when we've had some very excellent models, the ones I've highlighted have been really nice, and there have been others. You know, there was Model Factory brought out this pair of F4U Corsairs. I haven't had it in my hand, but they look stellar, they look nice. So I think they might have got in the top 10, quite possibly. But I didn't manage to get my hands on those. So it depends what you want, of course. You know, not everybody wants something that's this detailed. I appreciate that. If you want a simpler kit and you want to have a lot of fun and want quality and a great looker, go for that Hurricane, you know, or something similar like I mentioned the Model Factory Corsair, something like that. Although I'm never a fan of having pairs of kits in a box. I think I'd rather just have one and have it half price. But anyway, but this FW190, any of you that saw my review, I was just blown away by it completely, really, because it did tick the boxes. And I wanted it to beat the Tamiya. In the event, it did by a hair's breadth. It did, because I just thought it was fresher. It's completely new too. So it's a brand new kit and therefore wins because it's the best new kit of the year, all new kit, you can argue. And I just like the way they've gone about it. I love the way that they present the instructions. Nothing's left to chance. You're not groping about in the dark like you are with Kinetic and Board and other people. It's just a thing of beauty, really. It's for something that's not that much more expensive, you know, it's £5 or £10 more than the Border version. Why would you want the Border one? Why would you? And it's in a funny scale as well, you know. So that is my champion of 2023, the kit of the year. Many of you that know me probably aren't that surprised. I think it's nice for us to actually have something a little bit different winning. Not just Tamiya this time. I think Zukimura have been hovering around, you know, for 2 or 3 years. The chance that they're going to win. This time they've crossed the line and they've made it. You know, they've nailed it really. So I'm very, very pleased for them. I know that many of you will agree with me. Top 3, many of you will agree. Many of you will disagree. In fact, many of you might agree on the winner. You might think it's that one. You're never going to get 2 people to agree on a top 10. Never, never. But that's the way I feel. The fact that I want to build it tells you that I feel invested in it already. The fact that I think I can build it, because it's not for beginners, obviously. Anyway, Toso Kimura over in Japan. It's the Shigeta. I say to you, sir, Shigeta-san, congratulations, well done. You win this year. You win the prize, get the trophy. Tamiya, no, they're not really the first of the losers. They sort of lost on a technicality, you could almost say. That is a beautiful kit. That will probably be easier as a build than that one will be, if I'm honest. I think so. But the particular variant of the aircraft has got so much extra detail than the first version. It does make it, and it's used by the British, it's used by the States, it's used by, I think Korea and Japan have both got them, and is it Norway? I forget all the countries now. There's quite a few countries using them. Italy. It's used by a lot of countries, so it's obviously going to sell well. But the fact that it is, it helps invest you perhaps a bit more in it if you think your country are using the aircraft. So there we go, really. Anyway, there we are. That's my roundup of the year. I do hope next year's models, I do hope we get a bit more variety and a bit more volume though. And I do hope we get models out a bit sooner, because I know there's been issues with the Suez Canal and Yemen and all this sort of thing, but it just has been a little bit frustrating sometimes when, we've not been able to see things that should have been, this should have been in September. This one was going to be sort of November or late, and in the case of Airfix didn't turn up at all. It's just a bit frustrating, I appreciate that there are issues out there, and there's more important things in the world. As ICM will tell you, there's much more important things than model kits, quite frankly. Yeah, so I suppose we have to keep our sense of perspective about it, really, but it's nice to celebrate the best of the best. And I say to ICM, thank you very much. I think I probably owe them the biggest thanks this year. Them and David Mummery have been huge supporters and helped my channel, been a factor in helping the channel grow, really, both of them. And ICM's output, and I've been dealing with their managing director, and I'm now dealing with a few ladies, and they're all so helpful. Nothing is too much trouble. Really grateful to the way they've gone about things. So our prayers go out to you, and we wish you strength, and we hope to see more great products from you next year. We can't wait for the Marauder, so I'm really looking forward to that one. I just can't wait for that. So I think we'll see that sort of late Feb, early March perhaps. Anyway, that's it from me, folks. I hope you enjoyed a drink or two with me. I've only drunk a couple of glasses of the champagne. My wife will be home in a minute, and then she'll be saying, "Where's the champagne? Have you opened the champagne?" Oh, here we go again. Okay. And thank you to all of you, to Steve, Chris Usher, Stuart Neal, John Fogo. I forgot to mention John Fogo. He sent me a lovely card, a really nice card. Stuart sent me a beautiful bottle of wine. She didn't need to do it. It's absolutely fantastic. Oh, almost as good as this. Maybe it was better though. It was red. Haha, my favourite. And of course Jeff Flood. Great supporters. Chris Doney, another great supporter of the channel. Jason at Model Kit Stuff, who's got his own YouTube channel, of course, done some lovely builds on there. So many other people. Steffi Cohu. We've got Colin Berry. I'm going to try and remember everybody. I'm bound to forget loads of them. Let's just see if I can remember all my supporters that have come on the chat now. I'll try my best. Andy Preston. Cheers to you. And Gunther, Commodore in Germany. Joe Schenk in New York. Cheers, Joe. Thanks a lot, buddy, for your support. We've got Aubrey St John down in Australia. We've got Paul Price, also in Australia. We've got Peter, Oscar Modelling. He's in Australia too, a lot of Australians. I struggle all the time. George in Holland. We've got... Why is my brain going to go blank now? It's the champagne. I'll never remember everybody. Please don't be offended if I've just forgot you. I'm just trying to think of all the regular names. Dan Usher. So many. I've just gone into brain freeze. It's almost like this. Those are the people that always come on right at the beginning of the chat. Because they always come on fairly together. I remember them the best, and then everybody else joins in. I sort of, and by which time my brain's not quite as tuned to it, and I struggle to remember everybody. But Hobby Time, Gordon, I remembered him. Come on, Peter, you can remember more than this, surely. Crazy, isn't it? So I've only remembered about 15 or 20 people there. It's just really poor. Because I regularly get in the chat, I usually get 40 to 50 people, of which 35, 40 of you will be chatting regularly, and I really enjoy it, actually. And I try to say hello to everybody, but if I ignore you, or seem to ignore you, I haven't. It's just, I'm constantly looking at what I'm typing, and the stuff being said to me, and I just miss it. It's so easy to miss. So please be understanding if you don't get an instant response. I won't be ignoring anybody on purpose, I promise you. It's not the way it is. And thank you all for supporting the channel, because it's gone from strength to strength this year. It's had a big surge forward. You know, we've got, what was it, 2,500 or so? 2,500 new viewers, is it? The numbers are absolutely staggering when I look at them. Yeah, 2,500 new viewers just this year. That's an awful lot. So that's a third of the viewers joined this year, of the subscribers, the people that subscribed. So I'm really, really impressed. So there we go. Anyway, with that, there we go. I'm going to ceremoniously rip off my gloves now, because I think I've finished with the champagne. If I have any more, my wife will absolutely skin me. So I'm going to take the gloves off, so you know I haven't got manky hands or leprosy or something. And they're actually getting a bit sweaty in there. So there we go. There we are. Thanks very much to all of you. Have a very wonderful new year. I hope you have health, wealth and happiness in 2024. And I wish you all the very best. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for subscribing and watching all these many, many videos. I think it's about 125, 140 nearly, thereabouts. 33 rings a bell. A lot of videos this year though, you know. Yeah, it's 20 or 21 just in December alone. So there'll probably be, I think there'll be slightly less in 2024, because I'm going to do some building. I want to get this mosquito underway, which will probably start in February, I think. So stay tuned, stay tuned. I'm probably not going to do a build video as such, because again, it's more time, it's more involvement, but I'll certainly do photographs, and I'll keep you updated and start to show it in progress. I'll do progress videos, update videos, and that's quite a nice way you can see how it's coming along. And it just remains for me to say to all of you, thank you for joining me once again. I hope you enjoyed the end of year party. Try to keep it a bit sharper this year, not go off into so many tangents. But thank you to all the people who've sent in their model kits. I always pride myself on trying to get them back to you as quickly as possible, in as good a condition as possible, subject to our friends at the Royal Mail, of course, or whoever I'm using. But it really helps, especially when people send in such interesting kits. And some of the most interesting, 3 or 4 of those in the top 10 were submitted by other people. So it really does matter, and it helps a lot. So thank you. And if I turn down any, it doesn't mean that I don't want to deal with you or anything like that. It may just be the subject matter is not my cup of tea. But anyway, thank you all of you that supported the channel so strong this year, and it was a big factor in having that extra number of subscribers. I really appreciate all your support and your help. Here's to next year. Hope you'll enjoy tuning in to the next year, seeing how the mosquito goes and others. And until next time, have a great New Year party. Hope you don't get too much of a hangover. Stay well, stay safe, stay warm. Thank you very much. Until next time, thanks a lot. Cheers for now. Have a great time. All the best. Bye bye.